Presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm one of the hosts of the show, and to my right is my co-host. I have nothing clever tonight to introduce you to, so we'll just say it's my co-host, Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you for that lovely intro as usual. I got home. I did a little cramming for the show. Yes, if you're wondering, that means I did watch Hard Knocks right before the show, but that's when my memory's freshest. But I'm doing well. I got a full belly. I'm ready to go. We got a special guest tonight. I'm very excited. How are you tonight, sir?
We do. I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to bring in our guest. I'm happy to bring him back on. It's been more than a minute than when I've talked to him. I think the last time I saw him was 2021 at the NAL Championship. But it's been a while. He's got a lot of stuff to update our friends on. But he's also here to talk about the movie we're going to review tonight for No Ticket Required. So let's get him on as soon as possible. Before we get to that, just want to remind you about our social channels right down here below, which is Twitter, Instagram, and the scarcely used TikTok. It's at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, YouTube.com/at NoCredsREQ. If you're watching on replay tomorrow on Rumble, thank you for joining us. But in the meantime, please give us a like, comment, share, and subscribe to all of our social channels right down here below. On the podcast side, subscribe to the podcast wherever you podcast: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Good Pods, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, wherever you podcast. Listen, subscribe, rate and review. A 5-star rating would be awesome. It'd be awesome because more people are exposed to the program. Also, if you're on a platform where you can review, we might even read it on the air. And because we're a live show on Tuesdays, well, now it's Wednesday,
Yes.
but Wednesday, today is a Wednesday, but usually we're on Tuesdays at 8:05 Eastern. We're also on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. We want you to engage with the show. We want your comments. And I got to play this lovely, lovely sound to let the people know to engage with us during the show.
Lay it on me.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to bring in our guest for tonight. He is a good buddy of mine. He played for the Albany Empire in the Arena Football League from, I believe, 2011 through 2019. He played for the Albany Empire in 2018 and 2019, ended his career champion. But he is also in the movies. He was in the movie Safety, which is a Disney film about the Clemson cornerback and his relationship with his brother. He's also in the film that we're going to talk about tonight, American Underdog. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. Welcome back to the podcast, actually, because the last time I talked to him for the podcast side, it was in 2020. Collin Taylor. Collin, how are we doing tonight, bud?
Gentlemen, so happy. Much better, Ryan, by the way, intro for me than Dustin, man. I really, really appreciate you putting
Hey, you're the star of the show. I'm with him every week, you know?
Yeah. Sure. Well, again, man, I appreciate love being back on here. Man, we were talking a little bit off air, dude. I'm happy, man. I'm smiling all the time. I'm best I've ever been. So happy to be here and be able to share this stuff with you.
Yeah, we're happy that you can make it to the program because I know that you were a part of the production of American Underdog, which is based on the true story of Kurt Warner. I watched the movie last night. I'm pretty sure Dustin did the same thing, or maybe he watched it on Sunday or Monday. But yeah, I was a fan of the film. But talk about your involvement in the film, because you played the role of Ricky Proehl, which is who was one of Kurt Warner's receivers on the St. Louis Rams back in the day. And talk about your role in the film. Talk about Talk about some of the stuff that happened not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera, if you would please.
Yeah, of course, man. There's such a great opportunity working on that film. So a little background. I have been doing stunts on football films since about 2011. So the first movie that I got to be a part of was The Dark Knight Rises, which was the third film in my favorite movie trilogy ever, the Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale Batman series, right? And so I got to be on that, and then that was so cool, so exciting. Got to meet so many great people. But the main people I worked with were this company called Game Changing Films, and I bring them up because play a very important role in this film. And so through the individuals at Game Changing Films, Mark and Jesse and Mike and Ty, and shout out everybody who's out there, I've gotten the opportunity to do it pretty, somewhat consistently over the last 10 years or so. So when this Kurt Warner film came out, I had finished my professional arena football career. I'm trying to think. This was post-COVID. This was late 2020, early 2021, I believe, when we shot. And it was the first film that we were doing coming back from COVID, right? So it was a bit different than films we've worked on in the past. There were different rules. There were different arrival times. There was different rooming kind of setup. So everything was much different. But it was exciting that we got to go back and film. And when they reached out to me about the movie, originally it was to kind of this role of Ricky Proehl, like you mentioned, which was one of, Kurt Warner's weapons, but like pretty easy casting for me. They're like, hey, white guy, wide receiver, pretty plain dude. Like you got, you know what I mean? Like Ricky Proehl, great player, wasn't a stud, wasn't a standout. So I basically trained for that role my entire life. So that was an easy cast.
Yeah.
The hard part was they came to me and said, okay, so this is the first time we've ever filmed arena football to put on the big screen and in a movie. So they said, we're going to have to figure out a pretty good cast of individuals, not only players, but people behind the scenes that we can put into this film who can really make this thing come alive. So the first great cast that they made was they hired Coach Clint Dozel, who, famous arena football coach, Hall of Famer, was my coach in Beijing for the Lions in the CAFL in 2016. They cast him and hired him to actually train the head actor, Zach Levi, on how to throw a football like one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play football, right? Which if you get about 3 months to train to do that, let me tell you, you still don't do a great job of looking like one of the greatest football players to ever play the sport, right? So Clint had a really hard job in working with Zach, and Zach did an amazing job over those 90 days in preparation to be able to look somewhat like Kurt Warner on the football field. Did an amazing job. Zach's, again, for everybody who's seen the movie out there, one of the most beautiful men on the planet. So that was very easy for him to play the role of Kurt Warner.
It's true. He is dreamy. I've been a fan.
Yeah, I mean, so like he did that great. But then
he did do a very good job as an athlete for sure.
And so, Clint had a really hard job of doing that. But Zach responded to that really well. And then, so they cast a really good amount of arena football players, guys like James Romaine was also in the film. The guy who I've talked about, always been one of the best players I've ever played against. Chris Deeker was actually a double for Zach Levi as Kurt Warner. So you see a ton in his skill set in the film. Kendrick Ings was another guy who was on the field. And so because of my experience in not only film, but arena football, they asked me to be a part of production. So my role was to basically figure out, and it was pretty cool dynamic. They would say, hey, this is what we want in the film. This is what we're trying to get across. What would a play look like in arena football in this setting at this time? What would happen for us to be able to tell this story? So Clint and I would work together with another guy, kind of writer / athlete, kind of does everything in the movies. His name's Ty Crawford. So us three would kind of sit down and build these plays out and think of the story we were trying to tell. And then we would take that play the next day or the next week to the athletes and then train them on how to run these plays. And that was, a couple week process. Then everybody came in for training camp, and training camp is not quite like it is in the movie industry as it is in real life, right? It's more like choreography. So you're trying to teach choreography of the film. And then, Clint and I would make little adjustments. Me, Clint, and Ty would sit down and say, hey, this looks better over here. Maybe move this athlete here, cameras here. And then on the day, it was pretty much cameraman, Clint, myself, Ty, And then we're just kind of moving everybody around the camera and we're sitting back there trying to see what it looks like and get people adjusted and move fans around. I mean, just a really cool experience that I never thought I would have had the opportunity to experience. And so we shot arena football for the first time, put it on film for the first time ever. And I think it ended up coming out really well. We did a nice job of telling the story. And then we shot kind of the last end of that filming was the Rams and the Packers and all that kind of stuff. And so that was another fun part. Cause we cameras in the huddle a lot, and there's Zach as Kurt Warner, there's, his Marshall Falk, there's his Torrey Holt, there's myself as Ricky Proehl. And we got to play a lot of those kind of memorable scenes from that season where they were the greatest show on turf. And we got to put that on film. They actually would show us what the play looked like in real life. And then we would do it on the field. And we shot for, month and a half, 2 months, something like that. Great experience. And ultimately ended up being a great film. And again, like I have to say that Game Changing Films does an amazing job with what they do on television and movies. They also did like All American on Netflix. They do all the choreography for that. A lot of these movies where you see football and soccer scenes are involved. And again, Zach did an amazing job of picking up on the skill set, but I had mentioned Chris. There's also another individual, Will Arndt, who was on the roster for the Albany Firebirds at the beginning of the year. He is the double for Zach, for Kurt, when he's doing a lot of his passing. So when you see Zach on the field, it's for those, hero shots, close up videos. And then when they get a guy who needs to rip the ball down the field, you put in a professional arena football quarterback who does that. And then when you need him to, jump over a pile and into the end zone, you put in my good friend, Chris Deeker, and he got to do that. So great time, man, great people involved, and ultimately ended up being a pretty good, and I think a pretty memorable film.
Yeah. I recognize the name Will Arndt because he actually did play for the Ottawa Red Blacks in the CFL as well.
Yes.
And I remember the Firebirds bringing him in this season in a training camp for training camp. Unfortunately, he was released or he didn't make the team or was traded. I can't remember what happened to him, but I'll have to ask our good friend, president of the team, Jeff Levac, what happened with Will Arndt. But and watch your toes, people. There's gonna be some name dropping in this episode.
Right. That's where we start, right? Like Will Arndt, Clint Dozell, Zach Levi. So we'll go from there.
So how did they film the sequences? Because I talked to my uncle. Excuse me. My uncle is going to be. He's a former coach, football coach, former wrestling coach in New Jersey. He's actually going to be in the Hulu movie about Aaron Hernandez. He's going to be an SEC referee, and he was talking about how he had to go to. They wanted him to report to Florham Park, which is where the Jets facility is, New York Jets facility is, and they had this giant 2-story green screen because they're going to have the crowd against it and the stadium backdrop against it, and for the entire sequence, an entire day, they ran one play. Was that kind of the same experience doing the scenes for both the arena football sequences and the NFL sequences for this film?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's looks way prettier on camera than it does in the actual filming, and they're all long days. I mean, they're 12-hour days before you get into overtime, so you're expected from from your call date to be there for 12 hours. And they work on a 5. I believe it's like a regular week. It's 5 and 2. But it's not always, work Monday through Friday and then the weekends off. So it always kind of depends on the production. And then based on the size of the production, right, and kind of how much money they're putting into it. So again, name drop. So for Dark Knight, for example, they were able to bring in 10,000 plus extras to put in the stands.
Yeah.
Right. But I did a film called Black Spartans a couple years ago, and they had the same setup, big green screen, 2 stories, and they just shot into it. So it really depends on where in the story they're trying to tell, how big of a moment, right? How many people are involved, how many moving parts are involved. I've been on films where we've shot 70 to 80. There's this film Woodlawn we did in 2014. We had like 80 football plays. So we shot over 3 months. You just didn't have time to shoot it 1,000 times, right? It would be 2 or 3 times and you get on to the next one. But if it's a, if it's a film or a scene in the film that's super important, they want to make sure they get all the angles, get everybody set up, everything. Everybody's got to do the same thing over and over again. And again, I mean, it gets mind numbing to the point where we have to remind ourselves like, okay, we're on a movie set. This is pretty cool. A lot of people would like to do this. Right. And it's like, I've seen people walk off sets because it's just been too much for them and too boring and too long. And I don't blame them at all for that. But it's also one of the things you kind of understand is going to happen when you get into it. But a lot of my experiences, when it comes down to kind of specifically shooting, they'll do kind of the zoomed out the high shot, you'll just kind of run plays down the field. We did that a lot on the Kurt Warner film. We would kind of zoom all the way out, run plays back and forth. And then for bigger moments, catches, big plays, stunts and things like that, you'd kind of move in and around. But I mean, you would be lucky on a sports film to get through 4 plays in a day. So some of them can really be, I mean, a bit torturous. But again, you're like, dude, I'm on a movie set. Like, this is pretty cool. So it's not, no reason to complain about it for sure.
Yeah, but I think it just goes to show that anything can become work. If you, everybody wants to say, oh, it must be so fun. There are aspects where you just have to keep working at it over and over and over because maybe the director didn't like the angle of that last shot, or they want more so they can cut it out on the cutting room floor later. They want to see and put together the best angles, the best everything. So I can imagine that makes for some long days. All I can say is I hope you had some good craft services on the set as well.
Right. I mean, that's the other thing, right? Is like most kids are eating pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? You're going on set, you're eating pretty good. You had mentioned safety earlier. We had done a stunt on safety where my character was running across the field and the main actor was supposed to have an interception and a run to the end zone. And it was just supposed to be like a pretty easy stunt in and out. So what I did to kind of like spice it up a little bit is I dove because I wanted to make it look dramatic. So I dove on the first play, ball goes right through my hands, which would never happen in real life. As we know, Ryan, ball would go right through my hands. And then it goes into the main actor's right through his hands and hits him in the helmet. Again, just, a theater background, not a big athletic background. And they said, everything looks great. Let's run it again. Okay. So we do it again. We ended up working on this one stunt, this one scene for 6 hours in the morning. So we started shooting it at 9 and then we took lunch break. We did the same play all the way up until then. So I spent the first time I did it, I dove because I thought, oh, this will look cool. We'll go in and out. So I ended up diving like 70 something times in a row. And it was in Atlanta in August and it was like 107 degrees out, and that's one of those things, Dustin, like you said, I'm like, dude, it's a job, but like that was the time that I almost took myself out and I got so frustrated and, threw my helmet, got a little out of character and had to, kind of go back and meditate on that and kind of relax. But you get caught in these situations where, hey man, we need this one scene, this one shot. And if it doesn't go well, and especially in sports films, they want everything to go well and look right. And, sometimes you end up spending a ton of time on it, but kind of the opposite of that, Kendrick Ings has a stunt in the film you guys are going to talk about where he gets hit in the end zone and does like a 360 spin. And you wouldn't be able to know it was Kendrick, but he's incredible athlete, incredible receiver. I believe it's the early game when Kurt gets introduced to arena football. And we shot that in one take.
Oh, wow.
And it was such a cool stunt. Like his leg gets taken out. So he jumps up and then he's spinning. He himself has to spin himself. And then the other guy has to come and hit him to spin him on the way down. And we shot it in one take and everybody like kind of looked around and they go, yep, that's it. Move on. So sometimes you get blessed with those opportunities.
Yeah. And Kendrick, and I've seen Kendrick in games, both in the Arena Football League and in the National Arena League. That dude's special.
Yeah.
I think he's a special dude.
So I put him in that position. They said, okay, we want to do the spinning hit. And I was like, oh, I got the guy. And I told Kendrick and he literally looked at me. He's like, bet I'll go do it. And then on the first time we attempted it, the first time we had the cameras, it was up. Made me look good. right? But
Well,
I'm like,
Mhm.
that's why we put you in that. That's why we put you in that position.
And I do have to say, we're not going to get into the review of the movie right now, but I will say the football sequences, particularly the arena sequences, looked believable to me. So you did a good job with coordinating and assisting with all that stuff. I mean, I gotta admit, especially the arena scenes, they really hit home for me.
Yeah, thanks.
And it did a good job of capturing the quickness and the difference between the arena game versus the NFL and some of the adjustments.
Yeah. Yeah. And thanks for saying that. That was a thing that we talked about in those meetings, right? Like what really separates you guys? Well, it's dynamic. It's fast. There's nowhere to hide, right? You're on turf. So everybody's moving faster. The ball bounces off the net on a kickoff. They're like, wait, that happens. Okay. We got to put that in a scene, like we picked things that separated our sport from other sports, knowing that this was going to be the first time people were going to see arena football on the silver screen. And so they did a great job of really trying to find the things that separated our game from the outdoor game and let the athletes be athletes and let us do the things that we were so comfortable doing. And again, like you said, Dustin, I think it turned out really, really well. We were very proud of it.
Was it difficult to find those nets, those rebound nets, or did they have to construct them?
That's a great question. So we actually shot in Oklahoma City.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we shot all the indoor scenes in Oklahoma City, and then we went to Texas, to the Dallas's practice facility, where we did all the indoor scenes. I say indoor. It was the NFL scenes, but we were also indoor.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if it might have been like an old Oklahoma City Yard Dogs net or something like that.
Possible.
But yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. But they did a good job, and it was up.
Yeah.
And they figured it out.
The next up.
So,
Yeah.
and again,
That's what
so many
matters.
things are involved, right? So many people are involved in films and movies and TV, and it's just like whoever did that probably has not gotten the credit that they deserved for finding those nets and setting up the field. So, I mean, shout out to them. I mean, everybody involved in the film was amazing. All the way down to the guys who had to find the locations and the equipment. I mean, it's such a process. And, getting on the field and playing the football is the easy part, right? Everybody else is doing all the hard stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. So we talked backstage, and we're going to move away from the film. We're going to talk about the Arena Football League. Came back this year. It's third. I would say I would probably say version 3.0. If it's fair to say. I don't know if you got a chance to pay attention to it this year. If you pay attention to it, what was your opinion of this league, of this version of the league coming back? I mean, amidst all the chaos that happened with teams leaving and commissioner being replaced, did you pay attention to it? And if so, what were your thoughts of it?
Yeah, so I'm really excited going into the season to see what they were going to do. Obviously, it holds such an amazing place in my heart, not only from the experience that I have, the individuals I met, but if it wasn't for the Arena Football League, I wouldn't have found the love of my life. I wouldn't have gotten married to this woman. So it's like there are so many things for me. So I'm obviously very biased to the sport, but I'm very optimistic about it. I was happy to see that a lot of good football players were back. I got the opportunity to see, my wife and I got to go out and see Albany play West Texas, and West Texas was loaded. Albany was obviously loaded. I mean, that was some really good teams. I think it's tough, especially in Albany. It was tough because they did such an amazing job with the Empire.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the 2 years we were there was such an incredible experience. And I think they had lost some people in the time off, as expected. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But when they came back with a good team. I think it's interesting to see some of these newer teams to the Arena Football game try different styles. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, get guys in the shotgun, have people in the pistol, putting the receivers back at quarterback and being a little more run heavy. I mean, I thought all that stuff was interesting, and kind of as an AFL purist, I was a bit annoyed watching it, but I understand why people would do that. And again, I love the game so much. I think there's a place for it. I was interested in the choice with the mall for the championship game.
Okay.
I know I've heard some negative things about it, but again, I think a thing about our sport is it tries to think ahead and it tries to try new things. You know, they added the 3 and 4 point play, and it's similar to kind of what they did in the fan controlled football league. And people tend to like things like that. It makes it more like a video game, right?
Yeah.
You got hot spots. You have to pay more attention. I think that's so cool. I just hope it gets to the point where, you know, there are big time players who want to play the sport. I think the biggest issue was this year was, you know, when I was coming into the league, I got to watch guys like Jesse Schmidt. I got to watch guys like Donovan Morgan. I got to watch like some of these incredible athletes play the sport at the highest level. And I got to learn from that. So then I got to take things from them. And then, you know, Malachi Jones comes to Albany and he tells me that, you know, I was one of the guys that he watched on film and I could see some of my game in his style. And then I played with Quentin Sims for a couple years in Cleveland and a year in, you know, and a year in New York, and got to learn from him. And I got exposed to so many great athletes that I then was able to put together kind of all their skill sets to be able to express my skill set. Mm-hmm. This year, there was nobody like, I mean, you know, you could say Darius Prince, right? Obviously an incredible player. But he's only one guy, right? And I don't think that there were enough people for the young guys to learn from. So every game I watched, I thought ball was getting out late. I thought quarterback was making bad decisions. I thought there was pretty poor receiver play. A bit of that is because early on they were going both ways, right? So you get guys who haven't played the position. I totally understand that. And again, I'm not saying any of this to bash it, but I think they're going in the right direction. And I think after, you know, a couple more seasons, you're going to get those guys who are going to be the mainstays. They're going to be the big time players. They're going to be the guys that fans are going to come see. And then they're also going to be the guys who are kind of like the leaders of the new version of the Arena Football League. And it's funny, right before this call, I was on the phone with Quentin Sims, who I'd already mentioned, a dear friend of mine, who actually was our officiant. He married my wife and I a year ago.
Wow. That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, so like very good friend, right? And you know, we talked for 20 minutes about how fun it was watching the Arena Football League, and you know, talking about could we go back and play in this game at our age, right? Is that something we'd be able to do?
Come on, Collin, come on back.
You know, yeah, we'll you know, maybe we'll turn our daughter into a Arena Football fan, and then I'll go out and play a game when she can see it. Yeah, but you know, so it's like I know people want Arena Football. I want Arena Football. People love it. Some of my dear friends are people I've met, you know, in the Arena Football League from a fan perspective, and I know they want it. So I'm optimistic. I'm positive. I'm generally optimistic about most things, though. But again, I feel pretty good about what this can be. You know, as long as guys kind of we get some good players behind it and continue to develop the players and the coaches and see where it goes. So I feel good about it.
Yeah, I'm excited. And if Jeff Fisher, I know you're a big fan of the show. If you're watching, Collin Taylor is one of the guys to go to if you need somebody as a consultant for the league in 2025.
Well, I'll tell you another funny thing that Q and I were talking about is I'm now faster as an athlete, kind of transitioning right into our next conversation. I'm running faster now at 37 than I was at 27. And there's many reasons for that. But you know, it's one of those things that I'm like, oh, okay, I'm moving a little faster now. Like still got it. So it was funny. We were laughing about that, but you know, you never know.
You could pull it off. You could pull it off like Jerry Rice's late career with the Seahawks, which not a lot of people remember, but I remember. So you could pull it off. It's been done. You could do it.
Right, MJ with the Wizards, right? Yeah, Jerry, right. Yeah,
I don't talk about MJ with the Wizards.
He was still good.
I know.
Allen Iverson in Memphis and with the Detroit Pistons. I mean, that's my favorite athlete of all time, and I barely remember him on those teams. So I wouldn't want to do that, but you know, we're just trying to stay in shape.
The only thing I can really compare it to is Cecil Fielder with the Yankees. That's all I can really compare it to.
There you go.
That's all I can really compare it to.
Yeah.
All right. So I know you're itching to get back to. I know your wife just got home, and you're itching to get to her. Spend some quality time with the missus. Yeah. But I do have one more thing to talk about, and we discussed this on this show a couple weeks ago. Where we're talking about Hard Knocks offseason with the New York Giants, and Brian Dable made a quip during the combine. It's actually last week's episode.
Yeah,
he said they asked him. They're watching Xavier Worthy, who ran the fastest 40 in combine history.
Yeah.
They said they were asking each other, and Dable said, I could run a 7 flat 40 if they put a plate of wings at the other end.
Yes, that was my favorite part. He said the plate of
And I
wings,
said,
Oh, yeah, that's an
yeah,
important. That's
a very important rule. Have a beer and a plate of wings at the end, just in case. And I thought to myself, I want to see if I could do it. I want to see if I could run a 40 in under 7 seconds. Yeah, I'm a bigger guy. You know me, Colin. I'm a little bigger of a dude. I've dropped some lbs though. I've done 60 pounds in the last 2 years.
Oh, congratulations! That's amazing.
Thank you very
That's
much.
amazing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm an older dude, 46 years old. I turn 47 next month, but I'm always looking for ways to improve. So if I want to run a 40, and you as a personal trainer, personal coach, you coach high school and college athletes, and you mentioned some professional athletes as well.
Yeah.
How would I go about running the best 40 that I can as I would say a relatively active guy who goes to the gym, a weekend warrior type guy?
Sure.
What's your best advice for somebody who wants to run his best 40 time?
So how long do we have? How long are we training for? How long do you have to until you're going to run this 40?
I'm going to say anywhere between 6 months to a year.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you got plenty of time. If it was tomorrow, there would probably be some things that we would do differently. Okay. But if we're going to run it in 6 months, so I think even if you give yourself 3 months, here's some good things to do. Okay. So the first thing and the most important thing, maybe 1A, 1B, you want to make sure your hamstrings are ready for the force that they are about to receive when you run as fast as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So I would start a couple times a week, hamstring isometrics, and you can even do it. I mean, in your office there, laying on your back, knees slightly bent, push through your heels, right? So hips come off the ground. That'll fire the hamstrings up. So you hold that position 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, work up to 5 minutes would be amazing. After about 5 minutes, you'll probably find out if your hamstrings are ready for something like that or not. So that's where you're going to want to start. It's not really so much a strength thing as it is like a conditioning and a resilience thing. And I don't even mean conditioning as in the amount of wind that it would take for you to sprint. I mean conditioning as in conditioning your body to actually produce the force that it would need to be able to run fast. And then because you're saying 6 months, I would start doing some sprinting, right? But again, so the idea is doing the thing that you will eventually try to do. But I would build up, and I would start even at 10 yards. So if you're going over six months, you can progress yourself pretty slowly. Again, if it was 3 months, I would do for the first week, twice a week, I would run 4 10-yard buildups where you're starting at basically 10. And then by the end of 10 yards, you're getting to like 70, 80%.
Okay.
Right. So it's kind of like you're like micro dosing in sprints. Okay. So hamstrings, super important because that's what's going to take a ton of the force. Right. And then actually building yourself up so your body can respond properly to a sprint. So those are like the two big things. Okay. Outside of that, hip flexors are pretty important. Right. So another thing that you could do, and I don't know how detailed you wanted this answer. Like I could talk another hour on this. Hip flexors are going to be important, right? So like even standing on one leg, pulling one knee up to your hip. So you're kind of in like this like 4, this position where you're like, look like a 4, right? Or like a table. Yep. So you're standing, one knee's at your hip, hold that position because that's going to be our top speed position as you're nice and vertical there. That's going to get your hip flexor going. Same idea as the hamstring. 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, hold that kind of as long as you can. Get a pretty gnarly stimulus to that hip flexor. Do the other side. Okay. And then slowly, again, like we said, like microdose some sprinting. I would do 10 yards or so for 2 weeks. I'd build up to like 15 to 20 yards for another 2 weeks, 30 yards for another 2 weeks. And we're only doing like 2 to 4 sprints at a time.
Okay.
Twice a week.
Okay.
With that approach in 6 months, you'll have no problem. But
I was going to say, I think the next combine, Ryan, you should do this. The week of the next combine.
What's funny is that I will say, as friends of the show, Levac and Gods, we go back. I remember them on a radio show talking about them possibly doing like a combine, like the Firebirds do for their tryouts.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I have to jump in on that.
You're going to get in
Yeah.
there. I mean, and that's the thing. You just got a highly tailored workout plan.
Right.
See?
No pun intended. His last name.
Yeah,
Well
no,
done.
I didn't even, I'm that good.
Very
I didn't
well
even
done.
realize it. But,
Tailor made.
yeah.
Mhm.
But, the parallels between some of these professional athletes that you've dealt with, and then a phenomenal athlete in his own right, Ryan. You gotta kind of give him a chance to make it his own.
Exactly right.
True.
Exactly right.
True.
Yeah, Ryan, you do a couple of those things, man. Take care of your hamstrings, take care of your hip flexors, build up, microdose some speed stuff, dude. You will have no problem. You're gonna make that 7 flat. You'll be surprised. I mean, it'll be pretty good.
All right, we got some work to do, Dustin. All right.
We can do it. I can try it in solidarity. I got more work to do on my hamstrings because they will pop right now. I'm telling you.
Yeah. And again, send me an email, guys, afterwards. I'll put this stuff in something that you can follow. We'll make it work.
All right. Collin, thanks for joining us on No Credentials Required. Thanks for talking about American Bulldog, the Arena Football League, how to run their best 40. Tell the folks at home where they can find you if you're doing what kind of work you're doing besides the training.
Yeah.
If you got anything doing on social media wise or podcasting wise, I see a banner behind you.
Yeah, what's that?
So tell the people in the podcast and live stream audience where they can find you.
Yeah. So I'm out in Cleveland, Ohio, run a gym, T3 Performance in Beechwood. My personal social media is at The Real CT. A lot of fake CTs out there, so don't so much follow them. Just follow the real one. So The Real CT. And then also, if you're a podcast fan, I co-host a performance podcast where our goal is to talk to high performers and see what makes them tick and what makes them successful. That podcast is called Cutoffs and Coffee, which is back here behind me. You can find that on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, wherever you listen to your stuff. Follow that. And then again, personal social media, The Real CT, and I'm pretty easy to find on there. So I appreciate you guys having me on. We'll do this again sometime.
All right. Thanks, Collin. We appreciate you taking your time out of your Wednesday night schedule to be a part of the program. Stop by anytime, man.
You got it.
We'll talk football. We'll talk personal performance. Whatever you want to talk about. Conspiracy theories. I know you're big into the conspiracy.
Man,
I'll get the tinfoil hat going. I can
do
it.
How much time do we have? Yeah. I appreciate you guys, man. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for everybody listening. And then we'll be in touch, guys.
Thanks, Collin. We appreciate you
jumping
on. Have a great night.
You got it. Thanks so much. See you guys.
All right. Oh man, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
That dude, when he was a member of the Empire, was such a great dude to be around. I mean, all those guys were, but Collin mostly because he was a special dude. I got to, so personal story, couple days after the Arena Bowl, when the Empire won Arena Bowl 32 back in 2019, Collin was asking me, "Hey, do you know?" I think either he put it on social media. I'm not sure if it was him or somebody else saying, "Hey, I'm looking to get some fresh ink," because he noticed the sleeve, the sleeve tattoo on his left arm. Mm-hmm. He's always getting some fresh ink. He's like, "Yeah, me and a couple of teammates were looking to see if somebody can give us some fresh ink to commemorate our Arena Bowl victory." And I put them in touch with my friend Crystal, who is a tattoo artist. She's married to the former youth pastor at my old church. Funnily enough. And Crystal, if you're listening, thanks for listening. So I put him in touch with Crystal, put him, Mo Ruffins, may he rest in peace. I miss that dude. This is my favorite dudes. And DJ Stevens, who's another member of the team at the time, put them in touch with Crystal. I took pictures. Unfortunately, the pictures didn't come out like I wanted to. I didn't use a flash.
Oh,
rookie mistake.
Yeah, it happens.
I was getting pictures of them getting tattooed, and all of a sudden, a storm rolls by, power goes out. Ooh. So only Mo and Collin got their tattoos. DJ didn't. We sat there for a good 45 minutes.
Oh man.
And I'm there. My friend Jordan, who was the coordinations director, he was the PR guy for the Empire at the time. before the league unfortunately shut down. But I got to hang out with those guys for a little bit and just talk shop, talk stories, and it was a fun time. That's one of my memories of Collin being in the area. And Collin, just again, stand up dude. Again, I ran into him at the NAL championship in 2021. He and other former teammate Ryan Cave came up to the game to support their guys, a lot of the guys who were holdovers from the old Empire team were playing on the 2021 team. So yeah, Collin's a great dude. I can't wait if we get him back on the show. I can't wait to have him back on to tell more stories, tell more arena football stories. And I kind of got the gears rolling for an idea I've got for future 10 good minutes on the YouTube channel. So I'll tell you about our production meeting after when we're off from in August. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about American Underdog. In the last edition of No Ticket Required for the summer of 2024, let's get into it.
Oh yeah, diving in.
And it was also awesome to have Collin talk about the movie American Underdog, which I watched last night. I wasn't sure. I had to rent it from Amazon. I'm not sure how you watched American Underdog, Dustin, but let's talk about this film. Let's talk about this movie, and let me get your initial thoughts on I'll give the backstory of what this movie's about. This is based on the true story of Kurt Warner and his rise from one AA quarterback to working at the Hy-Vee, stocking shelves at the local Hy-Vee to support his family, to playing arena football, and then his journey to the NFL. And they skipped one important piece, but it would have made the movie 3 hours long. I'll get into that.
Yeah. Well, because I thought I watched this with some family on Sunday night, and we had to rent it on Amazon as well.
Mm-hmm.
It claimed it was on Hulu, so we thought it was all right, but you could only watch it via FXM with a Hulu Live subscription, which we do not have.
Lame.
I thought about it after the fact. I could have checked on demand because I'm one of these fogies that still has cable. So I could have checked on demand, but I rented it via Amazon as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was happy that we did, just because I'm telling you, all the streaming services need to have this. The thing where you pause the movie and it shows you who's in the scene. I love that. It helps with these reviews so much. But with that being said, I'm going to jump in real quick here. And first off, it's priceless to be able to have Collin on. It was my first time meeting him. He seemed like such a nice guy, a lot of positive energy. I liked it. And it was really nice to get some of the inside scoop on this movie. So I'll get into it just like the movie does. First off, I like the intro of the Montana Super Bowl against the Bengals, with the narration over the top. And it shows a young Kurt Warner, in his backyard dreaming. And it's got...
I remember that Super Bowl so well because it was the last Super Bowl before we moved to New York in 1985.
Ah, okay. Okay.
That's against the Miami Dolphins.
So that one's right in your memory. And, it's funny because I had to laugh at myself because I believe they showed scenes from 49ers Bengals. And I said, ooh, Frank Wycheck is coaching this team right now. Just kidding. Sam Wyche, everybody. If you're a long time show listener, you'll get that one. But I liked that intro because every kid, even me, dreamed about, the game is tied and I've got to lead the comeback here. But so then the movie jumps in, and I do have to admit, there was a part of me that was, I've seen the football life, the Kurt Warner football life, and I've also heard him tell bits of the story before. So I was kind of comparing that with the movie in my head, and the scene where he's trying to holler at Brenda at the bar. He's trying to he's letting her know that he's interested, and she's got her walls up. When you hear a little bit about Brenda's past, you realize. But she even says, I remember from their story, the Kurt Warner football life, she was like, I was mean to him. I blew him off. I did a bunch of stuff. And I think the movie was pretty authentic because, even me knowing the story initially, I wanted to be like, come on, Anna Paquin, what's going on? because she was really, really, giving it to the guy. Didn't give him her number, made him guess it. He walked the whole thing.
Maybe she was tough on him because her wig was pulled just a skosh too tight.
Man. We were talking about that wig, and my sister goes,
"I thought I'm the only one."
Yeah. My sister goes, "That hair is not doing her any favors." I said, "Unfortunately, per Brenda herself, it's pretty accurate, that haircut." But she has her walls up for a good reason. But eventually, one of my favorite scenes early in the movie is, spoiler, Kurt Warner does end up winning her heart. It takes a journey, but one of the first things that he does that starts to bring those walls down that Brenda has is he fixes the radio for Zach, Brenda's son at the time, who is blind. And that moment where Zach was singing with Kurt on the bathroom floor, it was a good early moment in the movie for me. And then, I was impressed with the production values of this movie for a couple key things. One of them, the GMC Jimmy that he buys, and he bought it in this green because he thought he was going to be a Packer for life. The whole use this signing bonus. I remember seeing pictures of it from the episode of The Football Life, and I'm like, is this the actual car? Did they get the actual model? Because from my memory, the paint looks the same. The year, it looks accurate to the year that it would have been. I mean, a phenomenal amount of research went into this movie, and Collin talked about it a little bit. The owner of the Iowa Barnstormers, probably my favorite character in this movie. I love this guy. He walks in and he says, "What if I told you tomorrow you could have a job playing the game you love?" And he just comes in, and then he goes to drop his business card and goes, "Oh, left a little money there." And
I laughed out loud for that.
I know.
That scene.
I said to my sister, I said, I'm going to try that. I'm going to drop my card and just be like, "Oh, left a little money there," and see how far that gets me. I mean, that really got me. And then, just going through the plot a little bit, I thought it was pretty accurate to what I know of the Warner story. I don't think they Hollywoodified this movie, because Kurt Warner's story is already inspiring enough. You don't need to Hollywoodify this thing. They kind of made Mike Martz the villain of this movie.
I was like, wow, what a dick.
Well, and full disclosure, I've had no love loss for Mike Martz. I have in my notes, they made Mike Martz the villain in this movie, and I'm okay with it because it fit the narrative. I hated those Rams teams, okay?
Yeah.
The Seahawks just couldn't get over the hump back in the day. But supposedly that is somewhat accurate. That I think I remember hearing somewhere, I don't know if it was from Dick Vermeil, but he said Mike Martz rode Kurt Warner hard because he wanted to prepare him for the stress, see if he was ready for the stress. But if some of this is accurate, I was like, ooh, Mike Martz, and it was checking the box. The only weak part of the movie for me, Dennis Quaid, I didn't really buy him as Dick Vermeil. I don't know why. It just didn't sit with me. And he didn't, and I was joking around. He didn't cry as Dick Vermeil.
No, he didn't cry enough.
Oh yeah. You need to be
at all.
You need to be crying when you're playing Dick Vermeil, because that man, he'll cry when he's moved. And you gotta do that to bring authenticity to the character. But the things that I loved about this movie were the integration of the real footage of the Arena Bowl it brought you right back to the time, seeing the young Mike Golick there, and seeing how the ESPN broadcast looked back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a little bit from this movie that I didn't know. And I wonder if this is true. If he did receive $100 for each touchdown pass that he threw, I can't remember if that is true or not. But overall, I liked this movie. I don't think it's going to make the top of my list, but it is not at the bottom of this list. The movie, even though I know the story, it still had me wondering what was going to happen at points. And to me, that's the sign of a decent movie. And with that, I'd like to get your thoughts on the movie, because I have gone off at length again.
So I looked it up, did some real-time research, and yes, that $100 bonus for every touchdown is absolutely true.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because that's how it was arena
just left a
football.
little money there.
Yeah, because you got in arena football back in the day, you didn't get paid that much. They didn't get insurance until I think 2000 or 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they didn't have insurance at all.
Yeah.
So, and they didn't get paid a whole lot of money. So, if you could throw as many touchdowns or catch as many touchdowns or run for as many touchdowns as you could, you got the opportunity because you were getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm trying to remember correctly, how many touchdowns Kurt Warner threw in the 1996 season? I'm going to actually do some
you're going to do some more real-time
right
research. Well, in that case, I will just say, and it's after watching the program, and I'm not trying to take another shot at the program. I did that enough, last week when we had Wise on, and we all kind of, kicked the program a little bit. But the football scenes, and I get it, it's a different time, different places, but the football scenes in this movie felt so much more real and authentic to me. They did a great job with the game. And I mean, I got into it a little bit with Collin. If you missed the first part of the show, go back and listen, because he had a lot of insight on how they achieved that. But it felt so much, what a contrast between the two movies to me.
So here's your stats for Kurt Warner in the 3 years he played with the Iowa Barnstormers. 1995, 2,980 yards, 43 touchdowns. 1996, 3,336 yards, 61 touchdowns. 1997.
Man, he's getting that $100, man.
Wait, there's more. 1997, 4,149 yards, 79 touchdowns.
Oh, man.
In his career, he threw 183 touchdowns in the Arena Football League, only 43 interceptions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good ratio there. Pretty good percentage.
So that would have been about close to 18 grand.
Yeah.
For touchdown bonuses. Well, that's not including rushing touchdowns, because he did have a couple rushing touchdowns every season.
A lot of money in that jar for Brenda.
Yes, absolutely. And that's not counting playoffs, and that's not counting arena bowls either. So you get bonuses back in the day if you made the playoffs and went to the championship. But going through this movie, it's an inspiration. It's definitely an inspirational tale. And I told my sister at the end of it, after it was done, I said, this another movie that we watched. We picked some pretty good movies this summer, Dustin. I gotta say, we gotta give ourselves a pat in the back. On my shoulder for selecting these movies, because we picked some pretty good movies this summer to watch this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And Iron Claw was it was number one on my list.
Yeah,
I love this movie. I love this movie. It had a little everything. It had a little bit of sport. I mean, I'm gonna watch, if it's a sports movie, I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna watch a sports movie. All right. This is how important sports is in my life. I've played it, I've watched it, I've covered it, and I'll watch movies about it. And it was awesome having Collin come in and talk about the movie and all the behind the scenes and front of the scenes stuff. I forgot to ask him if he got a chance to meet Kurt Warner. If he did, how much of an inspiration he was in this film. But
there's so many things.
Another episode.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again, because I wanted to ask him if he had a favorite story from on set, or if he
Mhm.
or who was somebody that he really enjoyed meeting during this movie and working with. There were so many things, but we knew we had a schedule to stick to and everything else.
Yeah. So, I mean, I quote tweeted our announcement about the shows this week yesterday after I watched the movie. I said to myself, you know what? This movie's not so much about Kurt's journey from obscurity to Super Bowl MVP and beyond. This isn't so much a story about him and Brenda. A lot of it is a love letter to his son Zach, and all the adversity that he had to go through as someone who has a disability, as somebody who's blind, has trouble walking from an accident. I guess I remember in the story, Brenda said that his father, his birth father, dropped him in the tub on his head when he was 4 months old, and that's how he became how he was. But he overcame all the odds. He went to speech therapy, went to physical therapy, learned how to walk, learned how to talk, is visually impaired. And you see at the end, spoiler alert, at the end credit, at the credits at the end, you see Zach as an adult.
Yeah.
And they formed they built a facility, an independent living facility for people with disabilities, because Zach gave Kurt so much inspiration. And he was I wasn't saying so much it was survival for Kurt as much as it was inspiration, that he was inspired by somebody who came into his life and touched him and touched him in a way that he was inspired to be a better man. And you would hear, and early in the movie, Brenda said, "Yeah, most men get scared off. I'm divorced and I have 2 kids."
Yeah.
That didn't scare Kurt at all. That didn't scare him. That would scare off most men these days, because most men these days, we're terrible.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'll say it out loud. Some men are terrible. Some women are terrible too. But some men are terrible. If they would happen to meet a woman who is divorced and has 2 kids, one of them having a disability, they would run the other way.
Yeah.
Kurt didn't. That makes him a hero in my eyes. And there's one scene that sticks out in particular. And this is when Brenda and Kurt are starting to date. And she talks about her faith. And I'm all for it. I don't know if Anna Paquin was affected by the story of Brenda or not. I know Zach Levi is someone who has Christian faith. Kurt Warner's faith is huge. We all know that story. It's part of this. That's part of the story. But he asked Brenda. He says, why would God be so cruel as to give people dreams, but they would never happen? And they dialogue about it a little bit. And then she said, yeah, God gives us dreams, but it's our job to chase those dreams. Like, we are meant to chase those dreams, to get those dreams. And that got me. That got to me. That got to me as somebody who is in a place in his life where things they haven't gone the way I thought they would go. And I've had to come to terms with that. And that's why I'm going through some of the that's why I'm going through some of the class at church that I attend. That's why I attend therapy, because I talk about those things and having to mourn those things that I thought would happen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, chase the dreams that I want to chase now. The new dreams. You chase new dreams. Like, some dreams are meant to be are meant not to come true. But in life, you can chase other dreams. And I guess for Kurt, the primary dream was to play professional football. But then that dream evolved into wanting to be part of a family. And eventually he married Brenda, adopted the 2 children that she had. During the wedding, they called him Daddy.
They did.
They did.
And then spoiler, they end up having, I think, 5 more.
5 more kids.
Yeah.
So it's 7 altogether. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's well said, Brian. I think as someone who also has had life not turn out the way that I thought, welcome to the club. You are not alone. And
Went through my 46 years to realize it, but hey.
yeah. Now I'm kind of the same way. And to be quite frank, on these airwaves, I think there's a part of me that I haven't mourned the loss of some of my old dreams yet, and I'm kind of seeing if the passion for some of the old dreams is still there. But I'm also trying to figure out what the new dreams are. You know, what do I want out of the rest of things? So you're not alone there. And if I may add on just a little bit, I think this story also it's another movie like Iron Claw, where it really comes down to being about family. But to me, especially in the beginning, it is about two people supporting each other, Kurt and Brenda, because they both go through hard times and ultimately they are there for each other. And there's that scene in the kitchen where she says, I'm going to quit nursing school. I'm going to get a job. And he grabs her and he says, no, you didn't give up on me when and I'm not going to give up on you. We are in this together. You're not quitting because you didn't let me quit and I'm not letting you quit, and that's what we do. So.
All right, we got to move along because we have more things to talk about, but let's do our final rankings.
All right.
Or no ticket required for summer of 2024, Dustin. I'm gonna have you lead off. Then we'll get to a couple comments that have come through the comments section, but give me your final ranking for no ticket required summer 2024.
All right, final ranking. And since this is the final episode, I'm going to go backwards. Let's see if I can do this. The backwards at the bottom of the list. The bottom of the list is the program. We all knew it was coming, everybody. After last week, I skewered it. The program's at the bottom of the list. Then checking in just behind that is Goon. And then behind that is Boys in the Boat. And then behind that is Mr. Baseball. And then behind that, I deliberated about this for a long time. I enjoyed this movie, but I think I, Tonya is still above it for me. So that means that American Underdog comes in here. And then we have I, Tonya. And then we have, the
Iron Claw.
Iron Claw is number 1 for me.
Yeah.
That's not going anywhere. But then we have Rush as well.
Yes.
And why I feel like I'm missing one. I don't think I am. I think I got them all. So
we got them all.
Iron Claw is number 1, Rush is number 2, and I, Tonya is my number 3. I thought about putting American Underdog here, but I, Tonya narrowly edges it out for me. What about you, sir?
All right, I'll do the same thing in ascending order. So, coming in at last place, the program. I forgot how, it's funny. We talked about that last week. It's like when in your 20s, you're like, this movie's awesome. And then you watch it in your 40s, you're like, this movie is gross.
That happened to me with Green Street Hooligans. It happens with everybody.
So coming in last is the program. Right after that, Boys in the Boat. And then following that is Goon.
Yeah.
Then I, Tonya. Then Mr. Baseball.
All right.
Then what am I missing? Rush. So top 3. So it's one of 3 movies in the top 3. So at number 3, it's Rush.
Yeah.
Is Rush.
Okay.
Number 2, the Iron Claw.
Oh man, Iron Claw has been unseated.
It's not because we had a guest tonight to talk about the movie, but at number 1, because I love this movie, because this movie was so inspirational.
It spoke to you.
It spoke to me in a very. It spoke to me loudly. American Underdog is my number 1 movie, in our top ranked in our ranking for no ticket required for the summer of 2024. Excellent. And if you watched along with us along the way, leave your list. on social media. I'm pretty sure your sister and your brother-in-law and your niece and nephew have an opinion about which ones they liked and which ones they didn't like. So,
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to watch as many with them as I would have liked to this year, but they have opinions about the ones that they saw. And that goes to everybody. Anybody listening to the show now or later or at any time, feel free, tweet at us, get in touch on Instagram, Facebook, wherever. Let us know your rankings. And also, I don't think it's a stretch. I haven't officially confirmed with Ryan yet, but I think no ticket required will be returning next summer. So if you have some suggestions, drop them off as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got some ideas for the next summer. I'm pretty sure Dustin does too. I'm pretty sure your sister Tracy, who gave us some of these movies as well, might have a couple suggestions. All right, quick comments. Quick trip to the comments section. Darnell, the playmaker, Solins, checking in saying, "Good evening, fellas. Good evening to you." He also asks, "Are you still on the fence on Team USA for men's basketball?" Yes. For women's basketball, no. For 3-on-3, we're winning gold in 3-on-3.
Oh,
because I found out, I was yesterday years old when I found out that Glens Falls native Jimmer Fredette is playing on the 3-on-3 team for men's basketball in the Olympics this summer.
that's a throwback. Jimmer Fredette, nothing but net.
That's right. That's right. All right, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. We're gonna breeze, but next up we're gonna breeze through episode 4 of Hard Knocks, and then briefly talk about the 2024 record predictions in a USA Today article that was published on Monday. So stick around for more. No credentials required.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at RighteousFelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
So speaking about being on the fence about men's basketball, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official craft jerky of our basketball bet. And if you missed the basketball bet, it was a couple shows ago we talked about USA men's basketball. I believe they won't medal this year. Dustin believes they will medal. And we have a bet.
Yeah, you got me the better of that though, because you said I will only get a box if they win the gold, which after the South Sudan last second heroics, I don't know about this.
And they were tied with, I think Germany was up on them yesterday in London. But remember, Germany beat them in the FIBA World Cup. That was a different team. Anyway, let's focus on craft jerky. Righteous Felon Craft Jerky, amazing flavors. I keep forgetting to restock on mine, but I'm going to wait until I win my box of Righteous Felon Craft Jerky to select my craft jerky.
Yeah. Tell me some of the flavors that I'll be buying you, Ryan. Go ahead.
All right, let's go to the website. Let's do some real-time research for Righteous Felon. Let's talk about some of the flavors you'll receive. Well,
but I understand that they are not, some of the competitors, the convenience store kings who shall be remain nameless. They're mostly processed chicken. They're not beef.
Yeah. So in addition to the craft jerky, you've also got beef sticks, which are 100% beef, unlike a certain beef stick with an attitude that you want to snap into, which their primary ingredient is pulverized chicken. But let's talk about some of these flavors that Righteous Felon has in terms of beef jerky. Like the OG hickory, which is my favorite flavor. Teriyaki Balboa, bootleg and barbecue, habanero Escobar, bourbon Franklin, Maryland Monroe, which is the Old Bay seasoning, Truffalo Bill, Fal Capone, which is the turkey jerky, and they have the Soul Survivor, which tastes like a Korean barbecue. But it's not just beef jerky they have. They also have the biltong, which is the inspired jerky. which includes Darth Garlic, Anchovia, and Nelson Mandela flavors as well. So,
I'm gonna
what you
get
want
you
to
some
do?
Darth garlic.
I've actually had the Darth Garlic. It's not my favorite. It's good. It's not my favorite though because it has black garlic as opposed to regular garlic. So
Okay.
it's special. But speaking of special, if you go to righteousfelon.com and you order your beef jerky, you promo code BELLYUP at checkout, you get 15% off your order. In addition to that, if your order is $50 or more, you get free shipping. So not only do you get the discount, 15% discount at checkout, you also get free shipping. You can bundle both together. So righteousfelon.com, promo code BELLYUP at checkout, 15% off your order. Go there now. Get yourself some great beef jerky. Oh, we have an acknowledgement in the comments. Speaking of the program, we have Wise El Jefe checking in. We have to acknowledge him. We must acknowledge our tribal chief.
The following is a public service announcement from Wise El Jefe.
Boston.
This has been a public service announcement from Wise El Jefe.
Again, one of my favorite clips in the moment in the history of this show is courtesy of Wise El Jefe. That player is important to the defense. Can't have him locked up.
Sorry, baby. You can't. He's too important to the defense. Oh man. Oh. And he must have known that we're going to talk about Hard Knocks episode 4 because that involves his New York Giants.
Yes.
So it's fresh in our minds because the both of us watched it before we went on air. I watched it while I was eating a couple of chicken legs and sharing with my cat Tagalong because he loves himself some chicken. But episode 4 primarily focused on key players the Giants were focusing on for the draft. Mm-hmm. Although the beginning of the episode was a little bit, do I dare say it's a bit of a foreshadowing for what's going to happen this season and beyond with Daniel Jones? Am I off base with that?
I mean, I don't think so. Because they're saying, "Oh, we love you, Daniel," but he's got the scenes where he's talking about, "Oh, we love you, but we don't want you to be surprised if we do take a quarterback. We understand your hamstring." They're really. They're really, and it is funny to have the benefit of hindsight with this show because then you start like piecing together the puzzle and you're like, oh, this is what they like. It's funny that Joe Shane, he does this thing in the episode where he's giving his kids before the draft. He's like, okay, who do you want? And the two older kids are naming most of the quarterbacks. One of them puts a receiver in there, I think. But then he goes to his younger daughter and he goes, okay. He goes, I'm going to write down some names and you pick one and you let me know who you want. And he writes down all receivers on that. So I'm like, okay, by then they already had the plan formulated. And then she says she wants Drake May. So she just disregards.
Yeah. I love the fact that his son chimes up and says, well, the girls only want JJ McCarthy because he's good looking.
Yeah.
That like a true brother.
Oh yeah. No, but I continue to be in the bag. But I think you're right on the money. There's a couple like I don't think you're going too far because there's a couple things where you can just kind of see the team's mindset. And let me ask you, Ryan, did you get the same read that I did? They were incredibly close to drafting a quarterback. If they could have worked out a trade up, they would have gotten one because Mara says, he's like, hey, I'm willing to go with you. If you have a feeling about these quarterbacks, just like Ernie Accorsi did 20 years ago, then go up and take him,
No, I totally got that vibe from John Mara in terms of, yeah, if we can get ourselves a team that could a quarterback that can change this franchise like we did with Eli Manning, yeah, go out and get him. Do what you need to do. And he was, and look, after that conversation, Joe Shane's talking to the vice president of the Patriots to say, hey, look, I know we talked about it at the combine. can we still work out a deal? And he said, and the vice president of the Patriots says, if it was any other year, we would have said yes, but we don't have a quarterback right now.
Yeah.
We need to focus on drafting the quarterback for the future. The next quarterback could take the Patriots far. So thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
And they offered him. He offered the Patriots a lot. He offered them the number 6 and a first round pick next year, because he said, we don't expect to be in the top 5, in the top 10 next year.
Mm-hmm.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah.
For the Giants, but I want to go back to the first part of the episode where they're talking about Daniel Jones and all the stuff that he's had to endure.
Mm-hmm.
He's missed 17 games over 4 seasons. The neck injury in 2019, 2020, I think they said.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He had the neck injury, had the knee injury last year. Look, you can pin that on Jones all you want. And he was relatively healthy in 2022. So so he was relatively healthy then. But
that was his best year.
And that was his best year. Yeah, that's how he earned that $40 million albatross of a contract. But there's a reason why he's had injuries. It's because you don't protect him.
Mm-hmm.
And to their credit, like I said last week, the Giants did their job in rebuilding the line with some important pieces. They bring in John Runyon from the Packers. They outbid my Jets.
Yes,
get him, but that's okay. We got John Simpson, who will play left guard this year. Got a couple other pieces in free agency. They picked up Man Spider, Brian Burns. To bolster their defense, have an outside edge rusher. But it is going to come down to what Daniel Jones does in this season. And if he doesn't perform, I got to look at Spot Track to see what his contract is like, if they have a buyout for him in 2020, in 2025.
No, I'd be interested to know this as well, too, because you have to. I mean, we all knew that Daniel Jones this is his make or break year, but watching this show, you can see it so much more. And the fact that they are willing to speak as freely as they do about it with the cameras rolling. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wonder what they say when the cameras aren't rolling.
Yeah.
And while you're doing that real-time research,
I have it up.
Oh, you've got it up. Okay, let us know.
Phrasing. So after this year, they have a potential out, which would only generate a $22.2 million cap hit, which isn't that bad compared to Russell Wilson in Denver, Denver is eating $85 million of that albatross of a contract.
All to have Jarrett Stidham starting games.
All to have a locker room, a quarterback room of Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson, and Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Great job, Sean Payton. Fantastic job. But yeah, I was surprised that while the cameras were rolling, they had to be that open about it. They had to say, look, if we had to cut our losses after this year, we have to cut our losses. Mm-hmm. They're putting the onus on Daniel Jones to come back to the 2022 form that he had. And that was a great year for him. That 2022 year was an outstanding year for him. I think I might have had him in fantasy in one of my leagues.
No.
I think he might have won that league for me. Unfortunately, that league won't exist this year, which is sad because I never got a chance to hold the belt. That was the Godzilla Media League.
Oh man,
I won in 2022. It was by default because of what happened with that Buffalo Bills. Forgot who that player was, who had to be resuscitated on the field. Hamlin, Damar Hamlin.
Yeah, Damar Hamlin. Yeah,
I won by basically default. And I never got a chance to hold that championship belt.
Oh, man.
Nice belt, too. But anyway, that's in the past. But I think, they're definitely they put all these pieces. Yeah, they lost Saquon Barkley. Okay, you got to make some adjustments. But now, we'll see next week. Spoiler alert for episode 5. Yeah. They're going to draft Malik Neighbors at 6. They said, if Malik Neighbors falls to 6, or Marvin Harrison Jr. falls to 6, we're going to take him. Otherwise, we're going to either try to trade up or we're going to trade back. And they got a playmaker in Malik Neighbors. They've got Devin Singletary, who can be an effective pass effective pass catcher of the backfield. He's no Saquon Barkley. He's a little older than Saquon Barkley. He's not that kind of a talent, but he's still an effective running back. He did really well with the Houston Texans last season. They decided to let him test the market because they brought in Joe Mixon, and they also just signed Cam Akers as well. So I'm kind of interested to see if the Texans can avoid the sophomore slump. But
the Texans signed Cam Akers?
Yes, Texans signed Cam Akers.
Oh, wow. That could spell doom for Damon Pierce. Getting Joe Mixon and Cam Akers. Damon Pierce could be available, which he had a down year last year, but his rookie year, he was good.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, and I took him in fantasy football, and he did absolutely nothing.
Right?
But going back to the Giants, go back to Hard Knocks. Yeah, I like you said last week, I didn't feel like I was going to get into it, but I'm into it now.
Oh yeah,
I'm into it now.
Yeah, quickly, what was your favorite sequence? Because mine was all the scenarios that they had the draft board and they were moving the first round and they were showing the branches, and it shows that the Giants' research and what they thought other teams were going to do was pretty good, because he said, based on my conversations with the Patriots, they're going to stay at 3. They're probably going to draft a quarterback at 3. They said the GM of the Cardinals, he doesn't want to move. He really is set on Marvin Harrison, and I don't think he's going to F around. They're going through it, and I'm like, they're right. Their research team was right about what they thought other teams were going to do. And that part just mystified me. I really enjoyed that.
I like some of the music they choose for the montages.
And can we talk about the opening?
Let's talk about oh my gosh. The fact that they brought in Patrick Mahomes singing Moving Right Along with Fozzie Bear. That was excellent. But at the end too, where with Eminem's Berserk, I have now saved that to my liked songs on Spotify. But they're showing everybody getting suited up. Brian Dable suited up, Shane suited up, Mr. Mara suited up. Everybody's getting suited up. Yep. Hannah Burnett, how you doing? She's wearing the pantsuit. She's cute. I'm gonna say it. I'll say it right now. She's a cutie. And I didn't see a ring on that finger. So
all right. Give her a shout. She might be watching right now.
Yeah, I know, right?
But she was like, "This is not my vibe."
Yeah, this is like usually I'm wearing sweats, but at the same time, she's like, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be. The draft day. Draft day is my Super Bowl. That's what she said. She said draft day is my Super Bowl, which is an interesting choice of words. But I can't imagine she's been with the team for that long. Let's look at her profile she's on her 5th season as a Giants area scout. Okay, so she was with the Falcons beforehand, and she played lacrosse and soccer at Huntington High School on Long Island. So she's a local girl. Is
this just an excuse for you to find out more information? Perhaps. We'll never know.
Real-time research, folks. But in all seriousness, though, it was just interesting. This episode, I mean, it's not my favorite episode, but let's put it this way. When we had, with Collin coming on the program tonight, talking about American Underdog, we found out how the sausage was made.
Yes.
With Hard Knocks offseason, we're seeing how the sausage is made in the offseason to prepare for the next season. And it's a very fascinating look behind the scenes. I think we have 2 more weeks left, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure or maybe we have 1 more week left. I'm not sure. I think it's 5 episodes. So it's leading up to, so we won't be able to talk. Actually, no, we will talk about it next Wednesday, because we're doing Wednesday episode next week as well.
Yes,
so
we're doing a Wednesday episode. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so programming announcement next week. We'll have a Wednesday episode before we take a long break, and well-deserved break too. So yeah. This is a pretty good episode of the show.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Speaking of season, let's go transition. We'll talk about this very quickly. So on Monday, Nate Davis of USA Today released his predictions article for the USA Today for the NFL 2024 season. And I'm going to share my screen. And this shows a picture of his predictions for the 2024 season. And I shared it with you, and I shared the article on our Discord.
Mm-hmm.
This is who they have. So, so for the podcast listeners, they have in the AFC, they have the Chiefs, Bengals, Colts, and my New York Jets predicted to win their respective divisions. In the wild card, they have the Bills, Jaguars, and Browns as the 5, 6, and 7 seeds. In the NFC, 49ers, Packers, Falcons, and Eagles, they have the author Nate Davis has winning the division. The wild cards are the Lions, the Rams, and the Bears.
Yeah.
As the final wild card. So in the conference champions, they have my New York Jets and the Green Bay Packers. And Nate Davis has my New York Jets winning Super Bowl 59 over the Green Bay Packers, his old team, the Green Bay Packers. So let's do a quick. Now, I want to go through all these teams. So,
yeah.
AFC East is the Jets finishing 12-5, Bills at 10-7, Dolphins 8-9, Patriots 3-14. South, Colts 11-6, Jaguars 10-7, Texans 9-8, Titans 6-11. AFC North, he has all 4 teams finishing over 500, but he has the Ravens missing the playoffs. He has the Browns taking the last playoff spot. In the West, Chiefs at 13-4, Chargers 9-8, Raiders 6-11, Broncos 4-13. NFC East, Eagles 10-7, Cowboys 8-9. Ooh boy!
Oh, heads would roll in Dallas.
Washington Commanders 7-10, Giants 4-13. NFC South, Falcons 9-8, Saints and Bucks 8-9, Panthers doubling their win total to 4-13. NFC North, Packers winning at 13-4, Lions second, 11-6, Bears 9-8, Vikings 5-12, and then NFC West. Once again, the 49ers running away with 13-4 record, Rams finishing 10-7, Cardinals at 7-10, and Dustin Seahawks 5-12. Yikes! Yeah. So, from that list, which records and which teams do you think is most are most outlandish? Which ones do you think are pretty bold? I wouldn't say outlandish, but which predictions do you have from this list? Which ones do you think are the boldest, and which ones do you think are completely out of line?
Okay, I think there's a couple. I don't think anything here is like totally outlandish. Like I'm not like you're smoking something or whatever. Because anything can happen in the NFL season. But I will say, and I'm going to start real quick with my Seahawks. I'm not saying this just because they're my team. But I think he is underestimating the Seahawks a little bit and overestimating the Rams. The Rams, Matthew Stafford is another year older. They lost Aaron Donald on defense. Puka Nacua, I don't think he's going to have the same splash that he did last year. And Cooper Kupp hasn't been the same player that he was when he first burst onto the scene, and he's been one of the most productive wide receivers in football. But he's had a couple of down/injured years where he is injured, and losing Aaron Donald, that's a huge loss for that defense. That's a monster loss. So I think he's kind of overstating the Rams a little bit and underestimating the Seahawks, who part of his reasoning, I read the article, he said that it's a new team, new regime, not totally, because the GM that had a lot of input on some of those picks. He knows those players well. He was a part of drafting those players, and they hired Mike McDonald to hear John Schneider talk about it. They hired Mike McDonald partially based on what they thought he could do with some of the players that are still there. Geno, not the best quarterback, but he has command of this offense now. He's been with this team. He knows these players. And so we'll see. The other thing that I really disagree with is there's two more that stick out to me, and then I'll cede the floor to you. I think he is overstating the Packers have a talented young defense. Yes. The Packers also, that team, that division is going to be a good division, because I think the Vikings, while the Vikings will probably finish last in that division, like he said, O'Connell's going to make them more competitive than they have any right to be. That's what's going to happen, in my opinion. But I think the Lions are still the ones that are going to win the NFC North, because although the Packers have an amazing defense, and they also have Josh from the Raiders, the Josh Jacobs. They also have Josh Jacobs. It wasn't like they had a slouch at running back last year. They had Aaron Jones. Okay. So to me, you kind of switched out. Josh Jacobs might be a slight upgrade over Aaron Jones. But I think the linchpin is with Jordan Love. Can he live up? He's had one good year, and he's already looking for an extension. Yeah. Can he live up to what he did last year? You give me Jared Goff or Jordan Love. I'm picking Jared Goff right now. He's got more of a proven track record. And then it's kind of the same deal in the AFC. He's got the Jaguars as a wild card team, and he's got the Texans regressing a little bit. I think the Texans are too talented to regress that much. I think the Texans are the ones that are going to either get the wild card in that division or win it. I don't think Jacksonville gets there. But those are the ones that stuck out to me. I want to hear more about what you have to say. And I have a feeling you're going to have some thoughts on your Jets. I don't know if your Jets get there to the Super Bowl where he has them climbing the mountaintop. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. But I want to hear what you have to say about this.
I'll be very brief because we've gone a long way in this. Yeah. We've gone quite a way in the show. We have to revisit this on Saturday with our boys Levac and Gaz.
Yeah. We'll keep the graphic. We'll get their thoughts.
We'll get the graphic. We'll keep their thoughts. I also have a thing in mind about college football we have to talk about too. So
okay,
we'll talk about that'll come Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. So I have very tempered expectations for the New York Jets this year as a Jets fan. Look, I'm all for them going to the playoffs and winning the Super Bowl, according to Nate Davis. But look, very tempered expectations. 10 wins will get you the AFC East crown. Now, who gets the 10 wins first? Again, we'll decide who wins the division. I think you're right about the Texans, but they're going to be in a very tough division, and they also got some very tough opponents down the road this year. They're playing the AFC South plays the NFC North this year. That's going to be a very tough division. Chicago's improved. I don't know by how much though.
Yeah,
it's going to be on Caleb Williams. It's going to be on Caleb Williams and his arm. They did a lot in the draft. They already have a decent defense. Their offense has been good over the last decade or so. And I don't know what kind of coach Matt Eberflus is.
Eberfludini.
Yes, Eberfludini, because he disappears in big moments. I could see the Patriots going 3-14. I could certainly see the Panthers going 4-13. I can't see your Seahawks going 5-12 for the reasons you said. And yeah, I have a little bit of doubt on the Los Angeles Rams. If Playmaker is still listening, he'd probably say, no, the Rams are going to be great this year.
Yeah.
All right. That defense is a young defense. They lost a lot of pieces, and they drafted primarily around defense. So yes, they bring in one of the top edge rushers this year, but he's not Aaron Donald. And By the way, Staniel Smooth, congratulations to Staniel Smooth, by the way. He got engaged over the weekend. So he's getting married. So
Daniel.
congratulations to Staniel. He says he's got the boldest prediction of all.
Oh, man, that's it. He's putting it on the table.
He is putting on the table and saying his Seahawks will win either 10 or 12 games. That's pretty bold prediction.
Yeah, that is bold. That is. But Staniel's he's got more courage than I do. We'll have to talk Seahawks at some point again. It's always fun to talk Seahawks.
And he also says, thanks, broskies, from the Department of BA. I presume badassery.
Yes.
But going back to, like I said, I'll be very brief. I can see the Raiders finishing 6-11 because the first 9 games of the year is good. They've got a hellacious schedule, especially in the first 9 games. They could be out of it by then. And we'll see if Davante Adams changes his tune. I wrote an article on, shameless plug, Belly Up Sports. My last article is how the Jets could possibly obtain the services of one Davante Adams. It's going to take a lot. Oh, yeah. He's the Department of BS, not the Department of BA. But
I'm going to have to read that. Oh,
thank you. But there's going to be a lot they're going to have to undertake. Are they willing to risk sending? I mean, they've got picks to spare, but yeah, they've got a long ways to go. And plus the salary cap with Hassan Reddick holding out, wanting $24 to $26 million a year for stop. All right. Stop cosplaying Japan. Come back to camp, pal. But yeah, I mean, if the Raiders are out of it, I can see the Jets making a trade deadline push for Davante Adams, especially depending on where they're going to be come November 5th, which is when the trade deadline is. Election day as it happens.
Oh, okay.
There's not a lot wrong on this list, but there's also not a lot right. But a wise man once said, the most predictable thing about the future,
it's unpredictable.
So, we'll touch on this more on Saturday when we talk to our guys, Levac and Gaz, on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. So, yeah, and I mean, yeah, there's a lot to it. NFL season coming up. We're gonna really push hard in the football content twice a week this year for previews. We also have it in the works to have a guy who could make you some money, make you some cash.
Ooh,
yeah. So
okay.
for games this year.
All right.
But it's in the works, so we'll let you know when that happens. But in the meantime, we're gonna get out of here. Got a little bit too long, but you know what? It was a great show regardless. I had fun doing this episode.
Yeah.
So on the social media side, Twitter, Instagram, and the scarcely used TikTok, it's at NoCredsREQ. Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ. YouTube.com/@NoCredsREQ. Again, if you're watching on the replay tomorrow on Rumble, we appreciate you. But you could also like, comment, share, and subscribe to all of our social media channels down below. On the podcast side, subscribe to the podcast. And again, share it. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. Tell random people on the street. Listen, and no credentials required. That would be super helpful because it grows our audience. And I want to say one thing about the growing audience. Take a guess, Dustin, at where most of our viewers have listened from the last 30 days.
All right. So we talking views or listens here?
I'm talking about downloads and listens.
Okay, downloads and listens. So which platform?
No, not platform. Which country?
Oh, which country?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna say that we have infiltrated somewhere in Scandinavia, like Sweden, Norway, someplace like that.
Nope. The most downloads in the last 30 days have come from Singapore.
From Singapore. All right.
Singapore. So Singapore, welcome to the No Credentials Required family.
Happy to have you.
After that, it's the United States, then in third place, China.
Man.
I don't know if it's Taiwan or the mainland, and Germany. So
okay.
So all of our international listeners outside the United States, welcome, subscribe, tell a friend about our humble podcast based in upstate New York, and subscribe on whichever podcast platform you're on. And Also, rate and review. 5 stars is preferred. And if you're on a platform where you can review, leave us a review. We might even read it on the air. We're going to get out of here. Remember, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, Levac and Gaz from Fox Sports 980 Albany will be here. Talk some sports. We'll talk some pro football. Talk some college football. We'll see if we can get Dustin invested in college football this year. We'll
see.
And we'll talk about other stuff as well. But in the meantime, thank you for tuning in to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We're presented by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. For Collin Taylor, our guest Collin Taylor, and Dustin Henry, I'm Ryan McCarthy. We'll talk to you again on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. It'll be our second to last show before we go on a short break in August to recharge for the NFL season. So we'll talk to you again on Saturday morning.
Good night, everybody.